to work very closely with one of our very celebrated rights activists like late Asma Jangir, nearly for, I would say, 20 years. We lost her, and it is a void which I don't foresee to be filled in the near future. She was such an iconic, hard-working, honest, able lady. She had been doing wonders in this area. We always miss Asma whenever we gather such gatherings. Well, many are following her footsteps, and I am so glad that JPP is one of the organizations. I'm proud of a part of JPP. Actually, I'm wearing two caps. I'm also on the board of JPP as a founder member of JPP. Sarah is a very intelligent, hardworking, I would say her girl, because I'm one of her senior colleagues, or I would say the trainer when she joined the profession. She joined my chamber, my office when she joined legal profession. It was back in 2007, I believe. And her work is also shared by all of you. My responsibility as Minister for Law and Justice is actually sometimes it's very difficult to justify. A rights activist inside me always comes up and reminds me of my responsibility as a rights activist. And then I have to see the state constraints, that where to start and where to stop. I'm having a written speech, but with your kind permission, I would like to share my heart with all of you instead of going by the statistics, because there are so many sessions in this conference. Let me share one thing with clarity and certainty. The government of Pakistan has a strong commitment to follow, to regulate, and to actually harmonize its duties, obligations arising out of the international covenants or treaties by Government of Pakistan as a state party in international covenants, treaties, and we are mindful of this fact that it is our state's duty to be vigilant in this area. Unfortunately, we live in such part of the world where human rights violations are commonly reported. There have been serious criticism, not only in my country, but even in the neighboring countries. Few practices are, despite all efforts, are still going on. Few of the vulnerable communities, I would say, is the top of the line is the female or the women. For protection of those, we have been enacting laws from time to time. I won't share the list of those laws. It starts from 2006, 7, 8, then there has been Women Protection Act in criminal laws. Many special laws in that regard have been enacted. I met in the morning with Christine and the honorable representative of the UN in the morning, and we were sharing that this 30-40 years journey of Pakistan, starting from early 90s, I would say, at least when I always believe in seeing. You always say that the seeing is believing. I joined the profession in early 90s. There is there is a difference when I look back in 80s or 90s and when I see the 2022 Pakistan. It's a long journey. It's been a bumpy ride for activists, but I am glad that so far we have covered reasonable or sometimes in certain areas enormous kind of distance. And it is all because all of you, my local friends sitting here, they have been actually by one way or another contributing or letting their own lamp in this journey. And they made it possible. Many are not here. The governments, all over the world are always reluctant to implement the things as it is, because every state has its own policies according to their geographical situation, the population or the community living there, the ethnic groups. As in Pakistan, we have different communities living, and this blend is everywhere in the world, and more especially in Africa and Asia, you would come across with the countries having different mix. People living in metropolitan cities are living a different life. People living in tribal areas, they are having different problems. There are religious, ethnic groups. Those actually do not expect, or they cannot be actually even asked or compelled to adhere to certain practices. But as a rights activist, I believe, and as a representative of state, it is our duty and obligation to actually draw a line, the minimum standards. That what should be the minimum standards, which is a red line which should never be crossed. And the red lines have been provided by my constitution. It's a document, all Pakistani actually feel pride in that. The Constitution provides for fundamental rights like all other civilized societies. Article 4 talks about due process of law. We call it, our superior courts in many judgments said that it's the heart of the Constitution. Constitution is a living document, and Article 4 of heart of the Constitution. And Article 4 says that every person shall be dealt in accordance with law, and no action shall be taken except in accordance with law, detrimental to his life, liberty, honor, dignity, reputation. So it covers many areas. My constitution not only protects the rights of the citizens, but it also protects the rights of all persons living in Pakistan, belonging to any religious, ethnic, linguistic community, including the foreigners, including the minorities. Article 25 says that there shall be no discrimination on these scores. Article 9, Article 10A, Article 14 ensure the dignity of person, inviolability of the privacy of the life, and as well as the right of fair trial, which has been considered to be and acknowledged as a fundamental right in the Constitution. So I believe that whenever we talk about the human rights, the minimum standard, the red line is the framework given by the Constitution of Pakistan. And when we say it's enshrined in the Constitution of Pakistan, it means it is the duty of the state of Pakistan to ensure and implement. And I can state it with certainty and pride that in this journey, not only the state functionaries, they have been trying to adhere to Constitution, but whenever they violated, and which is also quite common everywhere in the world, that the laws are made for the purpose that people have to follow the laws, but wherever there is violation of any right or any obligation, there is a mechanism provided under the law. And for that mechanism, we look towards the state functionaries, and if the oppression is actually originated from the state, it has to be adjudicated by the courts. And here comes the catch actually. For ensuring the constitutional guarantees, for ensuring that persons or the people of Pakistan or persons living in Pakistan are duly protected under the scheme of law, their rights are preserved, and for any violation which calls for enforcement of fundamental rights, our Constitution empowers the superior courts specially and the subordinate judiciary ordinarily to ensure that the persons living in Pakistan are dealt with in accordance with law. That is a long journey. When we talk about the judicial history of Pakistan, there have been many celebrated judgments which can be quoted in line, where the rights of women, the rights of minorities, the rights of bonded labor, rather the bonded labor was those practices was abolished through the Supreme Court judgment, unfortunately, and it is not, if we go back to history, it's just 1990. There have been recent occasions when our jurisprudence was on the criminal side was revisited, I would say, when the Supreme Court of Pakistan shifted the policy of sentencing and laid down a certain criteria for inflicting the maximum penalty of death. Our laws provide for death penalty in certain offences, including the offences against human body, the terrorism offences, or many others. But Supreme Court of Pakistan in 2008 handed down the judgment, a very celebrated judgment, where the Supreme Court said that, well, there are two options before the courts of law, either to inflict death penalty or to go for life imprisonment in cases which are serious or grievous in nature, like the intentional murders or sabotage or terrorism. The previous practice of the courts, or I would say the jurisprudence, was that the normal penalty, this is in vogue since the colonial times, and this was because of the colonial might they wanted to maintain their power in the area. It was first time when Supreme Court of Pakistan held that no, two options are there, but we have to read in the Constitution in all the laws, because Constitution is the supreme law. Constitution says that the right to life is the most fundamental right, inviolable in nature. It's the most cherished and most cherished right under the Constitution. So we have to keep those principles laid down in the Constitution in mind while implementing the sentencing policy in serious offences. So Supreme Court of Pakistan then held that for court, the first option should be life imprisonment or the lesser penalties.